All right, welcome on down to another PB&J, and I'm here with Mr. Problem, the Devil's Advocate, and Akia, the Root Omari, the philosophical. Like the new movies versus the old movies, and for me, personally, there's just a realism of having somebody in a suit running around, like Chewbacca, or well, obviously Boba Fett, but any of the creature type. Characters are in suits. They went all out on the suits, and even the robots. C-3PO and R2-D2. There were people in those suits operating that. And so the new Star Wars movies, to me, just have so much CGI.
Newer movies, it's all made up to be a little bit more childish. Like kids can understand those movies better than they can understand the older movies because there's a lot of just older humor, and they're just older characters and older people that we don't see anymore. And so kids don't really have that connection that older kids do to those movies, I think. So,
what do you think, Akia?
Well, I mean, if you want to just analyze why technology is the way it is, why movies are utilizing CG so much more than either puppetry or costuming or makeup, because there's a lot of movies that do both, and that do it well, but you're kind of pointing at the extremes of those who are trying to make a movie reliant on the technology, in which case usually fail. Mm-hmm. And then other times, obviously when you're looking at it time-wise, the technology wasn't there, and so visuals obviously can be a lot more stunning if you do it properly with CG. But specifically with the Star Wars trilogies, I think that was one of my disappointments, is that it was exploring a lot of new technologies when they did it, but at the same time, it does kind of lose a little bit almost of the kind of classic soul to that the original really brought, because of the fact that it was all real.
And when they added in some of the stuff, I don't think it was necessary. Like, for instance, one of the things they added in, and I think they may have added it in before when they first put out the remastered DVD or whatever of Star Wars, but I could be wrong, was when Darth Vader is like grabbing hold of the Emperor and throwing him down in there, right when he's killing Luke with the the lightning bolts and stuff. And Darth Vader says, right before he does that, he says in a real deep voice, "No!" And then then he grabs the Emperor and he's going to throw him down, and the thing he's like, he says it again but a little higher, "No!" and a little longer, and he throws him down there. To me, it's almost childish. I think I realize that he doesn't want his son killed, and I think I realize that of what's really going on. So it's almost like they've dumbed it down, like so children understand that he's angry, and that's why he does what he does.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think? Have you seen that part?
I have.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
That was, out of all the things they added in, that was the one thing.
Original trilogy. Well, I've got the VHS actually of the original, but then I also have the DVD remake, the new edition of it. So it'd be.
It's something that just you gotta see, and maybe people like that out there. I don't know, but the one thing I think that was really good that they added was they actually, at the very end, when he sees, after he's already burned Darth Vader, his father, and he looks over at the very end and he sees Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader, and Yoda. Now you can see Anakin Skywalker, and they actually brought the actor, if I'm not mistaken, from the first movie, and they had him fade in. That was one new addition.
Sure.
And I think that was actually on the trilogy when they re-released it. So
it was a.
Right?
On the original, you don't know the very original?
Not the very original.
No, but that was there. I think they wanted to keep that continuity.
I recently changed to another movie, saw the new Narnia, and this is what got me on this whole topic. It was, in my opinion, just terrible. I mean, the CGI in there is so fake looking, for a movie that's supposed to be one of these bigger movies that they're making. That like some of the main characters were actually full CGI, and to me, if you can't make it look real, don't even do it. When you put it up against like real life, and you're just having these little characters, or like this big huge like buffalo wildebeest type man, beating people, and that it looks like this, shinier type texture, and it just doesn't mold well with the background. I've seen it done well.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at Transformers. Transformers is
Percy
really good.
Jackson was actually, I think, pretty good, the way that they did that, and a lot of it. I mean, some of it can still
But I was going to say, even using Star Wars as an example, and that was when they did Jar Jar Binks, that was even at its early phase, some of the newer, it was new then, when you're trying to blend CGI characters, even though it wasn't, and the same thing with Lord of the Rings, actually, with Gollum. They're both done in similar ways where, you have an actual actor doing everything that you see on screen, but then they
Avatar.
it is, yeah.
Like
exactly.
Avatar, yeah.
Well, and with Avatar it's a little different because they were, running with a different type of technology again, but I think like you said, it's like if you're going to go into something, do it well, but at the same time, it's those movies that don't work well that kind of let the other ones stand out. And then I guess the way I don't ever really get all too. But
I think there's a real problem with, in general, real content. Like if you watch a lot of the old movies, they did something that was more what I call character building, where they go into a little bit more depth about who this person is and why you should care when they have their arm ripped off or something. You know what I mean? Like down the road, when something happens to them, and it's like almost like instead. They're using so many special effects, like in the second Transformers movie. There were so many plot lines. It was really hard to really grasp what was the importance of
One
the
thing
entire
I was disappointed with the second one was, in the second one there was so much more just transforming than there was actual movie. Like if you pay attention to the movie, at least a quarter of that movie is just robots transforming. And it's like, like when are they gonna fight? And then they talk for 5 hours too. But then in the third one they brought it back to a little bit more action and storyline.
I like what you were saying. I mean, and that's kind of.
Well, you saw the third one.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about what you thought about the third.
The third one, I mean, again, there was like zero story. I mean, it's all about action. Like, it's just a pure action. And for the visuals, it's just stunning.
Yeah.
And then I have kind of a little bit of appeal to it just because they completely destroyed my hometown, Chicago. So there was a lot of, CG, which basically gets to the point where it is very finite. When we get to the point where we can replicate everything, even on a gaming level.
Well, Beowulf.
Well, and then again, that was a different illustration method. How they did it. And I haven't seen it, but
we went to the theater for that one, and it's like, well, you could tell it was CGI at a certain point, but like the first 10 minutes almost, even in a big screen, it was so well done. The raindrops, people's clothing, even the hair, that we had to question it. I mean, I finally told my wife, I'm like, yeah. That's CG, and she's like, no, it's not. Like, and finally when, Beowulf yells and he's like, roar, and his mouth only opens like a certain.
It doesn't quite match.
It doesn't quite matching the real face.
A lot of movies, that's what it is. It's trying to find a balance between the two. And so, I don't even, stress about the CG and stuff because it's a dead end street. Once it maxes out, it's done. Then it's all about who's going to tell the best story.
Right.
So.
I thought that a funny thing about the new Beowulf was there's a scene where he's fighting in the cave or whatever, and he's naked. And in the book, what they meant by naked was he just didn't have any armor. He was still wearing clothes, but in the movie, he was naked, and I thought it was kind of funny.
How I see things maybe going in the future, and of course this may or may not happen, is if CG gets so good that they actually create these characters that you want to see more of, there will be an actor or actress actually attached to this character's look. And instead of Angelina Jolie, they'll be like, Francis D. Ferdinand or whatever. And this actor will be a CG actor. You won't actually see him ever act in a real movie, but his voice will be attached to this character. And so you'll see these other characters, Francis D. Ferdinand, in, the new, Transformers or something like that. And, it'll just be a CG guy, but we'll like him so much, and eventually there will be no need for physical actors and actresses.
Well, and I guess I agree to a certain. If you take it to the fact of if you take it with the mentality of technology replacing humans, basically, but really it creates two options because
The Terminator technology.
yeah. I mean, so yes, we'll be able to create full-fledged, realistic movies without people, so
Right.
fully CG. But at the same time, after that kind of caps off, every single individual on the face of the earth will have the technology to make their own movies that way. If you want to use, and that's what's kind of cool. But likewise, so what about the human element? Well, even now, with CG being so popular for cartoons and stuff, people are still doing traditional cartoons, and making them that way because they choose to, because it has a completely different feel.
It's a lost art if you don't, truly.
Along with that, Andrew was telling me, my brother, he was saying that the program that they used for the movie Avatar, they actually used a program that they bought for about $240 that you could buy online, and you could make a movie just the same as long as you knew what you were doing.
Sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, it's all become...
The technology.
All right, this concludes another episode of PB&J. This show was sponsored by the PB&J Collective. What do you hear, guys?